Hello everyone. So in this video we will be going more advanced in the pattern questions. This type of questions are most likely to come in board exams. These are some advanced type of questions which board generally ask. So in this question we have these elements which are arranged in right alignment. We know that here number of rows that we have is 5 and number of columns that we have, that is also 5. So that is the basic thing we already know. I have already discussed regarding that. If not, if you don't know, then please watch my previous video before continuing to this video. It is highly recommended to watch my previous videos, because if that you haven't seen, then you won't be able to understand my this video. So please do watch out my previous video. There is the playlist I have created of pattern questions. You can first watch those videos and then continue here. Now coming back to this question, students find mostly difficult to solve this. The only reason behind this, that this pattern is right aligned. This is not left aligned, this is right aligned. Because of this, student finds difficult to solve this kind of program. So in this pattern question, we can assume that here we have some additional space that is left before 1 is printed. That is, the number of space is 4. In this second row, we have additional 3 white spaces that is left before writing 1 and 2. In third row, we have additional 2 spaces before printing 1, 2 and 3. And in this one, we have 1 space before writing 1, 2, 3, 4. And here we have no spaces. So if we see here, row number is 1, number of spaces is 4, and number of elements are 1. Here number of spaces is 3, number of elements are 2. Number of spaces is 2, number of elements are 3. Number of spaces is 1, number of elements are 4. And in last, we have number of spaces as 0 and number of elements as 5. So row number and number of elements are same. Number of rows, row number and number of elements are same. But the number of spaces is exactly opposite to the number of elements we have. If we check the addition of row number and space, then it is exactly in each and every case it is 5. If we add this and this, then it will give us 5 in each and every case. So we can use this condition to create the number of spaces we need in our program. So for this, I have already discussed the basic structure of pattern question, but here the program is divided into 3 parts. First is row. Inside row we have column, and column is divided into 2 parts, spaces and elements. So for rows we will use one loop, for spaces we will use one loop, and for element we will again use one loop. So in total we will be using 3 loops. The outermost loop, that is responsible for rows, Now in one row we have both spaces and elements both together, and spaces is coming first, then elements. So inside rows we will be having first loop which will be responsible to print spaces only, and once this spaces loop is over we will be executing another loop which is responsible for elements. Why spaces loop is first? Just because we have this spaces first printed before the elements. Whoever comes first will be first here, and whoever comes second in pattern, that will come second in this. So according to this, I have tweaked the structure of the pattern from this to this. This loop is responsible for rows. This loop is responsible for spaces, and the innermost loop is responsible for elements of column. How many number of rows we want? The number of rows we want is 5. So this will not change. I equals to 1, I is less than equals to 5, and we will increment the value by 1. Now how many spaces we want in first row? We can check here. How many spaces we want in first row? That is 4, which is 5 minus the number of row. In second, 5 minus the number of row. That will give us number of spaces. So simply what we will do is, we will take another variable k equals to 1, k less than equals to 5 minus I, and I will increment the value of k. I will take space here so that the space is printed first and thereafter element is printed. So first here 5 minus 1, so number of spaces that will be printed is 4. So first 4 spaces will be printed. Once this loop is executed, it will then go to this loop. Okay, so now in this I will take j equals to 1, j less than equals to I, and plus plus j. Now why I have taken j equals to 1? Because we know that here 1 will be printed. In next 1 and 2 will be printed. So starting element is 1. In each and every case starting element is 1. So I compulsorily have to start my column with number 1, and this will decide how many elements I want in row. So I want the number which is exactly equal to the row number. The number of element is 1 and the row number is also 1. Here number of elements are 2. Here row number is also 2. So this is the condition which can match this type of scenarios. And what I have to print? Simply I have to print the value of j. That's it. If you try to execute this program, then you will definitely get this output. Let's see in BlueJ. And you can see here the pattern that we wanted to create is now created. What my point is, you just have to follow each and every row number and column number in order to achieve any kind of pattern that is given in question. Just remember how many rows we want, how many columns we want, and number of elements that we want in our pattern. So remember these things and you will be able to solve any kind of pattern program. Next, second question that I would like to solve is this one. Now this is exactly the inverted of what we solved in the first part. So now this you should be able to solve this kind of program. As I have already explained, here we have one space, here we have two spaces, here we have three spaces, and in last row we have four spaces. Now remember what I had discussed earlier, that check for the number of spaces we have, the number of elements we have, and what is the row number. Row number is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Similarly here we have spaces as 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now elements here are opposite. Number of elements are 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. So our outermost loop will be having the number of rows, that is 5. The first inner loop that will be having the spaces. Why spaces? Because in this type of pattern we have spaces at first beginning of each and every row. So spaces will be having one loop which is before the element loop, and second loop that we will have, that is of the number of elements that we have to print in this pattern. So I will directly write the program. You will be able to understand what I am writing. So for first we have to create outer loop which has number of rows. So it will be going from 1 to 5. So 1 to 5 incrementing by 1 value. Now here the number of spaces that we want to print is increasing and is every time 1 less than the row number. You can see here the number of spaces is exactly 1 less than the row number. So what I will write is k equals to 1 and k less than I. Here I am writing less than. So if less than is there, then it will not go up to I. It will always be 1 less than the value of I. And simply I will increment the value of k. Here just remember that we are printing white space here. White space means simple. Space and space. Space. So this space will be printed. In elements, the number of elements are decreasing when we go from first row to the last row. So j equals to 1. Why 1? Because the very first element is 1 in each and every row. In each and every row the very first element is 1. So that is 1 we have taken. Now the number of elements are decreasing. Number of elements are decreasing. And if we see the addition of row number and the number of elements that we have in row is equals to 6 in each and every case. So in order to get this, what we will be doing? J less than equal to 6 minus I. and increment the value by 1. And what we will be printing? Simple. Value of j. So j equals to 1, j is less than equals to 6 minus 1, and increment the value by 1. If we see, for the first row, I will be equals to 1, and when we go inside, k is equals to 1, k is less than 1. So 1 value is 1, and it is asking that is value less than 1? So answer is no. So it will not go to this statement. It will not print any space. But obviously we don't need any space. So no space will be printed. It will go to this loop. J equals to 1. J less than equal to 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. So j is less than equals to 5. So this loop will be executed 5 times, starting from 1, and it will go up to 5 and print all the elements. Once this is completed, this will go to new line and it will move to the next row. Again this will be printed when value of I becomes 2, k equals to 1, k less than 2. Now 1 is less than 2. Yes, this is correct. So it will print one space. Print one space, it will go above, increment the value of k. K value will become 2. 2 is less than 2. Answer is no. So this statement is executed one time. Space is here printed one time. It will go to this loop. This will be executed. This will print 6 minus 2. So this is 4. J is less than equals to 4. So 1 to 4. This will go from 1 to 4. And these 4 elements will be printed. And then it will again go to new line. This will be printed. Then this will be printed. And this will be printed. So this is how you can develop the logic of pattern questions. Now let's try to see in BlueJ. You can see that the pattern that we wanted is generated. So this is how you can develop the logics of patterns. If you have any kind of questions, queries related to this type of questions, and if you have some questions that you are not able to solve, then please send your questions on my mail ID. And if you have any questions related to this question, you can ask your questions in comment box. Thank you for watching.